Alright kids, this is Mr. Hamon. I'm going to be talking to you about your planet report that you'll be doing in science this year. And this report will be used later on by your English teachers when you go to write your research report, so it's going to be important that you do a really good job gathering your information for this report. And I'm going to take you through it step by step. This first page is your cover sheet, and as you can see you'll write the name of your planet here, and you're going to be drawing a picture of your planet. It should be colored, and it should be the outline of it should be done in like a type of black ink, maybe a thin Sharpie. We will expect you to draw at least 2 of the moons or satellites that have explored that planet, but you have to draw a minimum of 2. If you want to draw more you can, but at least 2. I'm going to kind of give an example using Earth because none of you are allowed to do Earth as one of your planets because you already should know a lot about Earth. So your first page again is just your cover page. This is the first page of your report, but probably the last thing you want to do on your report. Okay, so I'm just going to move it to the side and talk about the other parts. Page 2. This planet report is a type of report where you find information and then you fill in the necessary blanks as you go. So for example, some of it is very simple. This first spot just says name of your planet, so you write the name of your planet. In this case, mine's Earth, so I could just write Earth. And it's going to be important that when you do this, you take your time to do a good job and write neatly because, again, you'll turn it in to me for a science grade. I'll grade it, and then it could be a month down the road, you'll come back to your planet report and be expected to write a report for your English class. And if you don't do a good job with this, or you rush through it, or you do it sloppily, you're going to have to redo some of the parts that you didn't do a good job with. So take time to do a good job with this. Other things you have to say is it an inner or outer planet? How far away is it from the sun? So I know it's the 3rd planet away from the sun. It is one of the inner planets. See, some of this stuff, after we go through the planets in class, you may know off the top of your head. And it's located inside the asteroid belt. And this is kind of how this works, and you're going to keep working your way through this. Now, when you come across something you do not know, that's when you're going to turn to your resources, and we'll have books from the library for you to use. We have a worksheet over each of the planets that you're going to be able to read that will give you some basic information, and then there is, of course, websites that you can use at home or at school to access the information you're looking for. Just make sure that you go to decent sites for that. Wikipedia is a good site, and we'll also have some other ones listed for you to use. So you work through the planet report, and as you go, you take your notes on it. The 3rd page, you're going to describe how your planet was named, draw a symbol for it. Some of you may already know this. We may have already talked about it in class, but many of the planets were named after the Roman gods. So many of them have symbols. So you need to look that up and then draw a picture of the symbol right in here. Again, each one of these things kind of describes what information you're looking for. At this point, on page 4 of the planet report, you have some yes or no questions, but please don't just write yes, or in some cases Y for yes, or N for no. Please kind of explain yourself, like, is your planet made of mostly gas or rock? No, it is not made of gas or rock. Or yes, it is made of gas or rock. Please give a full answer, not just yes or no. Some people on their planets, they won't have many satellites or robots that have explored their planet, and that's alright. Things like Mars has a lot of things that have explored it because it's close to us. Other things like Pluto, which I guess really isn't a planet, so let's use a better example, maybe Saturn. They haven't had as many satellites and robots get there, so you may not have as much to write down. So it'll just depend on your planet whether or not you can fill all 3 of these rows. Now, the interesting facts page is probably the most difficult page for students to do. It is also probably the most important page for you to do. And when you do this, you're looking for facts that you have not already discussed on one of the other pages. Some past years I've had troubles with students writing down things that were already found on one of these earlier pages. Like, in my case, somebody might write down Earth is the 3rd planet from the sun. that's not a good, interesting fact for this page because it was already previously talked about. So when you go to look for facts, these need to be good, detailed facts, things of interest that people might not already know about that planet. And you want to pick facts that are going to make people want to discover more about the planet that your report is about. So it's very important that when you do these 5, you really take time to search through these books and the internet and find good, solid facts, and then explain them well. An interesting fact you might say is about Earth is that it's mostly covered with water. Okay, that's an interesting fact about the planet. But just saying it's mostly covered by water isn't enough. What percentage of the Earth is covered by water? Okay, what is it teeming with life? Yes, it's teeming with life. It's got a lot of life to it. Try to add facts that you think will make it more interesting, that somebody actually learns something about the water that surrounds the Earth. Maybe you talk about the fact that the Earth is covered with a certain percentage amount of water, and that's divided up into so many oceans, and you name those oceans. That would be a great way of explaining that. But give us some detail in these interesting facts. Now the last page is going to be your bibliography, and the bibliography is something that as a class we will talk more about. You don't really need to worry about it too much as you do the report. Just remember the resources you use. The most important thing you want to make sure is if you go to a website, make sure you write down the address for that website. If I go to BrainPop and I look up some information on BrainPop, then I want to make sure that I write down somewhere on this paper or on a scrap sheet of paper or even on one of these lines, www.brainpop.com. There's a little bit more involved to the books, and we'll talk about that more in class and walk you through how to do that in class. But with websites, you don't want to find information and then forget what website you've been to or where you got that information. Because if that's the case, I'm going to make you go back and find new information or find websites that had the information that you discovered. So make sure that if you do go to a website, you write that down so you know what website you got your information from. I believe that is it for this. I did want to take a moment to talk to you about your cover. So when you go to make your cover, I'm a fairly good drawer. I always have been good at drawing, but some people are not, and I totally get that. And I'm even a decent artist, but it's important that I take time to do a good job. I am not good at drawing circles. If I draw a circle by myself, that's about as good as I'm going to get it. I just don't have a steady hand for that. So instead of doing that, use your brain. Figure out tricks to get around that. Find something about the shape of your planet and trace it. Look at that. Now that's a good circle. Once you've done something in pencil, you can go through and go over it with marker. Once you've gone over it with a Sharpie and it's dry, taking an eraser, you can erase your pencil lines, and that's going to leave you a neat, clean line for coloring in. Now we expect you to use colored pencils on this. There will be no markers because markers bleed through the paper and will get on your report. And frankly, they look more juvenile. So having a colored pencil is important. Now once I've got my cover drawn, my circle drawn, I can kind of sketch in from using a picture. So I'm going to use this picture from the book called Earth. I guess appropriately named, huh? And I'm going to quickly sketch in.